This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, a massive winter storm hits much of the country, bringing freezing temperatures and wind chills in some places well below zero. And Democrats quickly said no to President Trump's offer for compromise on the border wall. So what's next in the standoff that has shut down the government? Plus, are some members of Congress now supporting the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement against Israel? One leading Republican senator says yes. And suicide is on the rise in Japan. We're going to take a look at what Christians there are trying to do to help desperate people in that country. All those stories and more are ahead today on this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin, though, with that brutal winter storm as much of the nation finds itself in a deep freeze today. The Arctic blast follows a deadly winter storm that left more than a foot of snow in some areas. The snow and ice is resulting in dangerous air travel conditions over the holiday weekend from Missouri to Maine. The winter weather resulted in the cancellation of more than 3,500 flights. Today, authorities already canceled hundreds of flights and more than 1,100 are delayed. The travel obstacles could continue into tomorrow.
They're doing everything they can to clear the roads before the freezing comes, because we don't want that turning into black ice.
When it comes to road travel, officials urge drivers to give snowplows room to do their jobs before the snow turns into some dangerous ice. But it is tough for snowplows, as you can imagine, to keep up. Our reporter Mark Martin is joining us now. He's been following the story. So I understand this storm has turned deadly.
Yes, it did. This was a monster storm, Ephraim. I want to mention that in Connecticut, a subcontractor was killed actually while repairing power lines. And then in Kansas, a snowplow driver died when his vehicle turned over.
A big part of the Midwest is seeing dangerously low wind chills, correct?
Yes, that's very true. It's not just the Midwest, it's also the Northeast too. And in parts of the Northeast, they're looking at double-digit sub-zero wind chills. For example, parts of Vermont are seeing 40 below wind chills. Other areas, minus 24, you name it. Then in the Midwest, you have like single-digit sub-zero wind chills. So if you're going to head out today, definitely bundle up, wear those layers. Try to stay out of the elements if you can and stay off the roads.
Unimaginable. So, and when it comes to snow, how much are we seeing?
Yes, snow in parts of New York, they saw around a foot of snow, and then back to Vermont, around 2 feet of snow. In the Midwest, you're looking at around 10 inches in some parts. So just huge, a huge snowfall here. We're talking snow and ice. And again, the big story right now is the deep freeze moved in after this winter storm is moving off the East Coast. So if you can, stay inside, stay out of it, because frostbite can happen in minutes.
Indeed, indeed. All right, Mark Martin following the story for us today. Thank you so much.
You bet.
It was the only total lunar eclipse of the year, and it happened last night with a bonus. It was the year's first supermoon, when the moon appears bigger and brighter because it's closer to Earth. The total lunar eclipse is a blood moon because the moon turns red from sunlight scattering off the Earth's atmosphere. The entire eclipse took more than 3 hours and could be seen in the Americas all the way across the Atlantic to parts of Europe. Scientists say we won't see another one this year or next. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell plans to bring President Trump's latest proposal on a compromise over his border wall to a vote this week in an attempt to end the government shutdown. The president's plan has been criticized by the left and even by some of his strongest supporters on the right. The president announced his plan in a special address Saturday. It calls for $5.7 billion for barriers along parts of the southern border, funding for technology to protect ports of entry, funding for additional immigration judges, a 3-year extension for temporary protected status.
This is a common sense compromise both parties should embrace.
Vice President Pence defended the president's plan, allowing for 3 years of protection for some 700,000 Dreamers.
This is not amnesty. There's no pathway to citizenship. What this is a good faith effort.
The vice president calls the measure a bipartisan effort based on talks with Democrats, while several Republicans say they're on board with the plan. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called it dead on arrival, spelling out her disapproval before the president finished his speech. Democrats plan to counter with $1 billion for border security. Our CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now with more on the story. So, Ben, break it down for us. Tell us more about what's in the president's plan.
Well, Ephraim, as you were talking about, really the backbone behind this plan is that $5.7 billion for border security. It was something President Trump campaigned on for the border wall, and it is something that he is not willing to budge on. One of the big selling points, or a compromise token, you could say, is the 3-year extension for the 700,000 Dreamers, also an extension for TPS. He's also willing to add an additional 2,200, I believe, 70 border agents, adding new technology to combat drugs and illegal immigration.
Then why are Democrats against this?
Well, Democrats, quite frankly, want a permanent solution for the Dreamers. They're not satisfied with just a 3-year extension. And as you said earlier, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said this was dead on arrival even before the president finished talking. And that really extends concern for Republicans that Democrats are just not willing to compromise. So we'll have to wait and see.
Indeed, we will. So what is next with this proposal?
Well, it looks like the Democrats might be extending an olive branch to the tune of $1 billion for border security. You heard Trump say, look, I'm not willing to budge off the $5.7 billion, but they're also willing to put this proposal so the 800,000 federal workers can get back to work and get back to getting paid. This is having a big impact at the airports. We are hearing that 8% of the workforce, TSA, have been calling out sick, and you bet that's having an impact along lines. And I'm sure this frigid temperatures is not helping things out as well.
All right, Ben Kennedy reporting from the White House for us. Thank you, Ben. A student accused of racism and worse in an alleged confrontation with a Native American at Friday's March for Life says he did nothing wrong. Nick Salmon was among a group of students attending the march. Native American Nathan Phillips was also there for an Indigenous Peoples March. The students were seen chanting and laughing as Phillips drummed. The video was shared on social media and went viral. The students were condemned for their actions, but Salmon, who was shown standing in front of Mr. Phillips smiling, says he was only trying to calm things down in the midst of the chaos. Both Salmon and Phillips say they were trying to calm down things between their groups and a third group affiliated with the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, who was allegedly yelling negatively at both groups. Salmon responded to all his critics on social media, writing, "I'm being called every name in the book, including a racist, and I will not stand for this mob-like character assassination of my family's name." Israel closed its Mount Haran ski resort today after Iranian forces in Syria launched a ground-to-ground missile at it. Israel responded by pounding Iranian targets inside Syria. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story.
The IDF said its fighter jets struck Iranian Quds forces' military targets in Syria and Syrian aerial defense batteries, and released this footage of 2 of the strikes. This map shows Iranian and Syrian sites targeted outside of Damascus. The IDF said it had hit a munitions storage site and an Iranian intelligence site and military training camp. The strikes came in response to an Iranian-launched rocket at the northern Golan Heights, where the Mount Hermon ski resort is. Israel's Iron Dome intercepted the rockets, and Israel closed the ski resort. Israel's foreign ministry tweeted, "Iran's attempts to entrench itself in Syria and endanger Israeli lives will not be tolerated." Earlier, Syria said Israel had carried out missile strikes, but its aerial defenses had thwarted them. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was on an historic visit in the African nation of Chad, said Israel's policy remains firm.
We have a set policy to harm Iranian entrenchment in Syria and to harm anyone who tries to harm us. This policy doesn't change when I'm in the country, and it also doesn't change when I'm making a historic visit to Chad.
In response, Iran said it was ready for war that would lead to the destruction of Israel. Israel's intelligence minister said the airstrike sent a clear message to Iran. The IDF took responsibility publicly and immediately for the airstrike, signaling a shift in policy away from its usual ambiguity. That could indicate that Israel is ready for an escalation. In a telephone briefing, former Israeli National Security Advisor Yaakov Amidror said Israel is ready for action.
Israel was very clear about it. We are ready for escalation. For us to stop the Iranians from building the independent Iranian war machine in Syria is so important that we are ready to go to something bigger than that if will be needed.
For now, it's quiet. But it's not likely that Iran will abandon its goal of the destruction of Israel, nor will Israel let that happen. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, one leading Republican senator warns some Democrats in Washington are supporting the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement against Israel. We're going to have that story when we come back.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
A global movement targeting Israel's economy is at the heart of a debate in Congress. Democrats recently blocked legislation supporting the Jewish state. They claim it's because of the government shutdown. One Republican senator believes there's another reason Democrats won't pass the bill. He says a growing number of their supporters are anti-Israel. Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us the story now from Washington.
There's a growing anti-Israel movement known as the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, or BDS, and Senator Marco Rubio is alarmed the effort's support is spreading to the U.S.
BDS is a movement around the world to get companies, pressure companies to boycott Israel, meaning not do business there, divest from any investments in Israel or Israeli companies, and to get governments to sanction Israel.
Currently, those behind BDS target companies like Ahava, Caterpillar, HP, and Sabra Hummus, hoping to isolate Israel academically, culturally, economically, and militarily.
It is an anti-Semitic movement.
Joel Griffith of the Heritage Foundation calls it a threat to Israel's security.
Israel, it's a beacon of democracy. It's an area where religious minorities and ethnic minorities enjoy equal rights. And yet that is the country that these individuals have chosen to target.
What do you think the end goal of the BDS movement is?
Well, the end goal, as stated by their founder, Omar Barghouti, is the end of the Jewish state of Israel.
Protesters boast their campaigns have cost Israeli companies billions due to lost contracts and major shareholders divesting.
I'm concerned that we're seeing for the first time at least 2 House members that are openly pro-BDS.
They would be newly elected representatives Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Tlaib recently told The Intercept she believes the boycotts bring attention to issues like the racism and the international human rights violations by Israel. Senator Rubio included a Combating BDS Act in the first bill the Senate is taking up this year.
We have a law that says that states and local governments can decide not to do any work, meaning no contracts for goods or services with companies that are boycotting or divesting from Israel.
Democrats keep blocking it, however, saying they won't consider any bills unrelated to opening the government. Rubio thinks there's another reason.
I think they're blocking it because they're afraid of radical elements in their own base. There's a growing group of people in the Democratic Party that are anti-Israel openly, and I think they're afraid of them.
Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Rashida Tlaib say Rubio's bill punishes Americans who exercise their constitutional right to engage in political activity. To which Rubio argues,
the First Amendment, first of all, applies to individuals. This law doesn't apply to individuals. All this law says is you can go ahead and support BDS, but if I'm a city or a state, I don't have to contract with a company that's involved in BDS.
Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a staunch supporter of Israel, did not answer CBN News' question about his thoughts on the Democrats who openly support the BDS movement. But he did say this about the Combating BDS Act.
I am a co-sponsor, so I've supported it all along.
Congresswoman Tlaib says she plans to go against tradition and lead a House delegation to which she refers to as the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Historically, freshman lawmakers have been invited to spend a week meeting with Israeli leaders. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Still ahead, the suicide rate in Japan is hitting its highest rate in 30 years, and one reason could be the lack of knowledge of God in that country.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured. God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson. Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Japan is facing its highest suicide rate in 30 years. A frightening trend is the growing number of children killing themselves over bullying and school pressure. There have been different reasons given as to why suicide remains so prevalent there, but Christians say ignorance of God could be why so many desperate Japanese are taking their own lives. Lucille Toulousan brings us that story now from Tokyo.
Aiko Kudu still finds it hard to believe that her childhood friend committed suicide.
How can he take his own life and leave behind his family in misery? He got depressed when his mother did not approve the school of his choice. He ran away from home. After 3 days, he was found dead in a park restroom. He cut his wrist and bled to death.
The suicide rate among young Japanese has risen to its highest level in 3 decades. According to the Ministry of Education, 250 elementary and high school students committed suicide last year.
Reports say that based on the notes left by these kids, bullying is the main reason that pushed them to end their life.
Being part of a group is very important in our culture, and that is why if the child is different physically, he is always bullied.
Pastor Miyahara says people who take this route often lack purpose in life. Throughout history, Japan has lacked a dominant religion. Religion is perceived as tradition, not a way to find purpose. And religion is not a priority. Japanese seek other ways for fulfillment. Mina Kobuyi gives free hugs at the Shibuya train station.
I give free hugs because I want people to relax.
When asked what she knows about Jesus,
Do you think religion is important?
Yes, but for me, it's not important.
less than 1% of Japanese population is Christian. This is why Pastor Miyahara is committed to share the gospel. He preaches outside the train station each day as people head home from work.
Jesus commanded me to share the gospel, and that's what I do. Some stop and have a conversation with me. That's when I tell them about Jesus' love and sacrifice for them. And I also get the opportunity to lead them to prayer.
Pastor Miyahara believes Christ can solve the suicide problem by helping desperate people find hope and a reason to live. Lucille Toulousan, CBN News, Tokyo.
Coming up, why a Christian license plate was recently denied in Sweden and how CBN brought a special celebration of the birth of Jesus to the West African nation of Benin. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now. It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Officials in Sweden recently blocked a Christian man's request to include the words Christ or Jesus on his license plate. A Swedish newspaper reports a man wanted to add the word Christus, the Swedish word for Christ, on his car registration plate, but the Swedish transport agency claimed the move could cause offense to those opposed to Christianity. When he asked to use the name Jesus instead, he was informed that word was blocked as well. CBN Superbook Clubs held a special Christmas celebration this year in the West African nation of Benin. CBN in French Africa, working with the Church of the Assemblies of God in Benin, hosted the event. More than 500 children and 50 instructors, including members of every Superbook program in that country, came together for the event. The children shared the meaning of Christmas with their community by performing dances and scenes from the Christmas story, as well as reciting Bible verses from memory. To learn more about what CBN is doing around the world, simply go to cbn.com/international. Gillette got a lot of attention last week for its new video and television ad, Taking on Toxic Masculinity. That's the subject of this week's Faith Wire program on the CBN News Channel. Here's Dan Andros with a preview.
Coming up on tonight's episode of Faith versus Culture, we look at the new ad from Gillette, Toxic Masculinity. Is it a thing? Is it something that's actually real? And if it is real, is it something that Christians should be concerned with? How should we be viewing this from the biblical lens? We're going to break that down and more on tonight's episode of Faith versus Culture here on the CBN News Channel at 9:30. We'll see you there.
And as you heard, you can see Faith Wire this evening on the News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. It is time for your Monday Motivation, and today I leave you with this message pulled straight from the pages of Scripture. He who has begun a great work in you is faithful to perform it. God is doing a great work. So pursue this day, knowing God will not leave you unfinished. You are His handiwork, His masterpiece. With that word, make this a marvelous Monday. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com, and you can catch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. Plus, we'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.